the first thing that I would always tell people is, don't when you hear horse sale and it's an auction format, don't assume that it's the same thing that you're going to see at your auction house. What are some of the advantages of a horse sale versus private treaty? One of the biggest things for a buyer coming to a horse sale is that you can see multiple animals at one location. Oftentimes, if you've tried to buy a horse private treaty, if you're trying to look at 10 horses, you might cover a 200-mile radius to look at 10 horses and try them out. It may take you 2 or 3 days. Whereas in a catalog horse sale, you can show up and see 50 to 100 animals in one location. Along with that is surety that we do the proper paperwork. Utah is a brand inspection state. Brand inspection is proof of ownership. If you buy a horse and don't get a brand inspection, you don't have proof of ownership. If you go to resell that horse, you may have some issues if you didn't get the proper paperwork up front. With registration paperwork, you need to make sure that not only you have the registration certificate, but a transfer sheet. And you need a transfer sheet for each owner that's had that horse since the last time the ownership transferred on the registration certificate. In addition to that, most sales, like ourselves, require a health certificate and a Coggins to come into the sale. In addition, we hire a vet to issue a new health certificate to you. Lots of people may not know, but to cross the state boundary, in most states, at least in the West, you need a brand inspection, you need a current Coggins, and you need a health certificate in your name to legally transport the animal across state lines. In any case that you attend a catalog horse sale, you're going to receive all that paperwork, not worry about whether you're getting what you need or what you don't need. Another thing that can be an advantage at a horse sale, and this isn't true to every horse sale, but oftentimes because a horse sale needs to have a vet there to write health certificates, they may take extra steps. For us, when we do our check-in process for all the horses at the sale, we have the vet look at each of the horses. They're not doing a full-on pre-purchase exam, but we have them check teeth to verify age. If they're a grade horse, we have them looking for scars that may affect the horse. We have them looking for any kind of signs of illness. If we see anything that concerns us for the horse, oftentimes our vets will tempt the horse to verify there's not an illness. So while we're not going in depth into a pre-purchase exam, we are taking every step that we can to look over the horse and see that it's generally in good health. That's not something you're going to get in somebody's backyard. In addition to that, in our sales, we always make sure that we announce who the vet is well in advance of the sale and give the buyers the opportunity to contact that vet and get a pre-purchase exam if they want. As a buyer, that may be a risk. You may pay for a pre-purchase exam, and in the end, the horse may sell outside your budget, and you may not get the horse, and you'll be out the money for the pre-purchase exam. That's always a risk that you take. But we feel like it's better to spend $100 to $200 on a pre-purchase exam and know if you're going to spend $10,000 on a horse that you're getting a sound horse than it is to not take that risk and get 6 months down the road and maybe come up across something that you didn't know about that may be a soundness issue. So, at the end of the day, if you were doing a pre-purchase on a private party and the horse failed the pre-purchase and you didn't buy the horse, you'd still be out the pre-purchase exam cost. And it's no different at the sale. If you do a pre-purchase exam and you end up not buying the horse, yeah, you're out the cost of the pre-purchase, but you're investing in being able to make a solid decision on what horse you're going to buy. The other thing that we'd suggest when you do come to a sale, research the sale. There's information out there, there's reviews, whether it's on Facebook or other social media or whether it's on Google or Yelp. There'll be reviews out there. If there's been enough bad experiences, it won't be hard to find. So we suggest if you're thinking about buying a horse out of the sale, go and research the sale. Find out what kind of a history that they have. Another very common question that we get from especially potential buyers is how does the process work? Sometimes people see our advertising and they see a horse that they like, they want to come into the sale, but they've never seen a sale before. They've never been to an auction. They don't really understand how the process works. So we like to help people try to understand kind of how the sale process works. And it's a little bit different from sale to sale, but for the most part, all the sales will be somewhat similar. First and foremost, the horses that are consigned in the sale are consigned by other sellers. One of probably the most misunderstood things as we market a sale is we'll get people call us up and think that all the horses in the sale are ours. Pretty much across the sales, there's a check-in process of some sort. This is where the consigners will bring and check in their horses, and they'll provide their brand inspection, their health certificate, their Coggins test, registration paperwork, whatever applicable paperwork is required. In that check-in process, again, for us, we'll have a vet on site that'll take a look at the horse and give it a quick check over. And then typically the brand inspector for the state will be there. In Utah, that's absolutely the case, that somebody from the brand inspection office will be there on site to verify the paperwork, verify the ownership of the horse, and sign off on the horse being in the sale. Another thing that's very common in most sales is a preview of some sort, whether that's held the day before or the day of the sale. We typically hold it the day of. It's typically 2.5 hours prior to the sale, where the horses will go through an arena area where they can, the sellers and consigners can showcase their horse, and you as a buyer can sit and watch that horse move, watch it work, see how it handles, see how it holds its head, and watch for the different indications that you may be looking for in a horse, but actually see the horse move and work. We often will get the question, you know, where's the bidding going to start? Well, that's going to vary from horse to horse. A lot of our horses will start at the $1,000, $1,500 mark, but may sell for $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000. Other times we'll have horses that will start, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 and jump, and they may not sell for any more. They may just start at a higher price, but they may sell for more. The other common thing is, you know, what's a horse going to sell for? Well, it really comes down to how many people want that horse and what they're willing to spend. So at the end of the day, how a horse is going to sell in the sell ring really comes down to how many people are bidding on it, how many people want that horse, and how many people are willing to go to certain amounts. There's always the reserve factor. The sellers that put the horses in the sale, they have the opportunity to set a reserve on the sale. If they bring a horse in and they feel like the minimum they're willing to take is $4,000 and the bidding stalls at $3,000, the seller has the right to no sell that horse and keep it. Once the reserve's met, it's typically going to sell. Probably the biggest question that we feel like that we can kind of help with buyers especially, is how do I prepare for this sale? Especially new buyers that haven't necessarily been to one. And that's probably one of the best questions there is. It never seems to fail that somebody that just kind of shows up, walks in and hasn't done any research on the horses and buys a horse kind of on an emotional decision out of the whim is typically the one that regrets buying the horse. The buyers that are serious, that are planning on buying a horse, that come into the sale, the best thing to do is research the horses. We release our catalogs at least a month in advance of the sale online, where people can go, pull that up, research it, look through the horses, read it. We also have them on our website in a photo gallery where you can go click on the horse. A lot of those horses have videos. Go watch the videos, watch the horse move, see what they do. Watch how the horse carries its head, watch its ears, watch how it's acting in different situations. Those are good opportunities before the sale to watch those videos, to research the write-ups, to research pedigrees if that's important to you, experience the different things on the horses, to really do your homework on the horses. Come into the sale knowing what horses you're interested in. Take the time to know what you're looking for and what horses you really want to focus on. In most cases, for almost any sale, consignor's information is available if you want to contact this consignor and ask additional questions. For most of the horses in our sales, we make the consignors available either by providing contact information in the write-up, or if you contact us, we'll get you in touch with the consignor. We would much rather have buyers call the consignors, ask the questions before the sale, than to ask after. So if, as you research the catalog, research the horses, make the list of the horses you're interested in, then start contacting the consignors. Ask them questions. Tell them what you're planning to do with the horse, and ask them if the horse is a fit. In a lot of cases, these consignors are trainers or ranchers or people that are supporting their family by selling these horses. Their reputation is important to them. If you call them up and tell them what you're looking for and tell them what you need in a horse and ask them if their horse is fit, most of them will tell you. They'll tell you the truth. And if it's not a fit, most of them will tell you that. If it is a fit, they'll tell you it is. If it's kind of an in-between, they'll tell you it's kind of in-between. But we suggest getting a hold of that consignor, asking the questions, telling them what you're planning to use the horse, and finding out if the horse is really a good fit before you start bidding on it. In addition to that, as you make your list and narrow down to the horses that you like, we suggest after you talk to the consignors, you kind of look at the horses, start putting a budget to it. What that horse is worth to you may be different than what it's worth to the consignor, may be different than what it's worth to another buyer. But determine before you get to the sale what that horse is worth to you. At the end of the day, probably the most common thing that we see in a sale from a buyer standpoint being disappointed is they come to the sale focused on a particular horse that's in the latter half of the sale. They pass up horses early on that they liked, but not as much as that later horse. And then they get to the later horse and the horse goes outside their budget and they've passed up all the other horses on their list. So our suggestion is sit down, make your list, research the horses, assign a budget to those horses. When you're at the sale, when the first horse comes through, bid to your budget. If you don't get him, fine, move on to the next horse. But if you can get him in your budget, go ahead and buy that horse. Because chances are the one that's later on might go outside your budget. So we suggest you make a list of your top horses, assign a budget to them, buy the first horse that you're able to get within the budget that you assigned. Now, when you get to the sale, you may tweak those budgets a little bit. Typically, there's opportunities in the preview to see different things. Before the preview, come to the sale early, walk the stalls, take a look at the horse. That's an uncomfortable environment for most of these horses. You're getting a chance to see them possibly at their worst because it's an uncomfortable environment. You're getting to see how they're going to react in an uncomfortable environment. Take a chance to go around, look and see. Most of the consignors will have the horses saddled up. Get on them and ride them if they'll let you. Take every opportunity prior to that preview and that sale to really research the horse. As you do, you may tweak that budget on your list a little bit, but have something to start with. And then, again, buy the first horse that you have the opportunity to buy within your budget. The biggest thing that we see is people that sit through, pass up 4 or 5 horses, waiting for one that's later in the sale, and then it goes outside the budget. And then they're disappointed because they didn't get one of the earlier horses. So we always suggest make your list, research the horses, assign a budget, and then buy the first one that lands in your budget. We can understand that oftentimes the sale environment can be intimidating. We do our best to make it as easy as possible for a buyer to come in and be confident. We do everything that we can to vet the horse up front, to ensure that the horse is what's advertised, and to ensure that there's no unforeseen issues. At the end of the day, though, realize too, horses are animals. They have personalities. How a horse reacts in one environment in 10 years might completely change in a new environment 2 months down the road. So the best thing you can do is research the horses, talk to the sellers, take advantage of the vet if you can, and have the pre-purchase done, and buy with confidence. We try to offer all of those things at all of our sales. And at the end, though, also understand that horses do have personalities, and realize that you're not buying a car, it doesn't have a warranty, and a horse sale or a private sale is not Walmart. They don't have refund policies. Do your research, know what you're buying when you raise your hand and you bid, and come with a list of what you're looking for. That's the best advice that we feel we can give on a horse sale. We try to provide that for both buyers and sellers, a neutral ground where it can be mutually beneficial. And if you do have further questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're glad to help. Thanks, and have a great day.